Hello, lovely Annabelle Apsion. Thank you so much for being with me today. I am absolutely over the moon to chat to you about your amazing career, really quite extraordinary, but not only that, your development into Rosen bodywork therapy, which you've grown into a school in Britain. So thank you, welcome Annabelle, and thank you for chatting to me today. So,
as I said, Cate, it's always such a delight to chat with you and do anything with you. So I'm very happy to have this time with you.
Oh, so lucky. Thank you, Annabelle. That means a lot. That means a lot. So thank you very much. It's always a delight. And I'm reminded actually of watching Elf with you, which was an absolute delight. I was reminded of Christmas with you. And when I look at your background, it's just full of Christmas delight. So thank you for this. And I wanted to talk to you because what I noticed from watching some interviews with you is that it was your acting career that got you into doing Rosen. And what I thought I could maybe ask you about is, I know it was when you did the docudrama Hillsborough, and you played Jenny Hicks, whose two daughters were killed in the Hillsborough disaster. I don't know if you'd be happy to tell us about that and how that took you to Rosen method.
Of course. I mean, that experience didn't take me to Rosen method. I had always been interested in massage, basically. But I happened to find Rosen after I had been in that documentary. And I was profoundly moved by the experience of meeting Jenny and Trevor and all the other people who had lost people that they loved there, hearing about what had happened, what should have happened, what didn't happen. And I think, as I've said before, the experience of imagining myself to be in that situation was different than a fictional character. So before, when I had played people, and I had played people like, Anna Karenina, she's a fictitious character, and actors inhabit the world of the characters that they play, so that even though they know it's not true, that part of them believes it is true. And it's that part that enables you to kind of blank out the crew when you're shooting a movie or a TV. You're acting with your fellow actor and you're having the emotions and doing the dialogue, but you can often see the crew moving around or doing things for the lighting or things like that. So you have to kind of blot that out and lose yourself in the pretend. And what was different for me about the experience of doing the documentary with everybody else about the Hillsborough football disaster was that I was imagining myself in a very real situation that was still very raw, of course, because of everything that had and hadn't happened around it. And so it was different. It affected me differently. It affected me very, very deeply. And so after, when I was, sometime later, I happened to go to the Rosen weekend thinking it was massage. My reason for going was that actors, and I don't know if you had this at the colleges that you went to, but often part of the course, and this is a really great thing for anyone who's thinking, oh, what course shall I do? Maybe do drama, because the courses I did, part of that was we would do massage on one another, because, it's this thing about you want to be relaxed. And you and I, just now, we did a fun vocal warm-up before we started this, and we were mucking around, and that's just the kind of thing that you do at drama schools or performance arts or things like this. So touch was something that I felt very comfortable with, very safe with, within those parameters. And I loved having massages. Whenever I'd travel around the world, I'd always get a massage in the different countries, which was really interesting, you know, in Japan, China, India, all different cultures and different styles of bodywork. And I thought, oh, you know what, I'm free this weekend. It would be fun to learn a bit of massage, because I thought, oh, I'd quite like to be good at it myself. But what was different about the Rosen was that it's not just touching your body, it's touching kind of deeper than just your muscles. It's touching the part of you that is kind of often protected by our muscles. People talk about muscular armoring. So an example of that is when people have had to be very defended, you know, and you can see in their like this, they're tense, they're kind of armored up, you know, you're not going to get in here easily. And we all have that, whether it's easily visible or not, we've all got it. It's part of how we get through difficult things. And so what I found amazing was when I received this bodywork, and I wasn't expecting anything because I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just going to be massage. So I wasn't at all expecting it. It completely took me by surprise. But it was like, as I've said before, the person found me, not just my tight muscles, but me, who I am. Somehow they were able to find that. And that I was so completely stunned by. I mean, I'd never met these people before. And I became fascinated. And in the workshop you get to do it a bit yourself. And I was amazed at what I could feel in another person who I didn't know, when I was guided about the way that we work, what you can feel, what my touch can communicate. And, you know, we all, hopefully, most people have lucky enough to have hands, or some part of themselves that they can use. You know, people are very adaptable. If you don't have hands, often people get very sensitive and very good with other parts of their bodies. Or when you see my left foot, learning to paint with his foot. So whatever parts, you know, we can use, and with me it was the hands. Just, this is free. This is something we all have. This is a skill actually in us, we all have, but we're not encouraged with that. You know, we're taught not to touch. In fact, kids always used to get told off for touching, and now there's all that things. Even people feel guilty touching themselves. And so touch isn't something that we've really grown up with. But when you think of all the nerve endings in the hand, and from what we understand now, the benefits of safe, contactful touch, all the hormones that are released, all the different effects that happen to us with the brain connecting, touch is something that actually benefits us to give. It actually does us good to give touch as well as to receive. And it's free, you know, when you learn this. So I just thought, isn't this amazing? This is a skill that I never even knew we naturally have, but it is a skill. So learning how to use that touch, and then there's all other aspects to it. But I suppose why I thought it's very good for actors, and I think actors kind of take to this quite easily, is because actors often think about what it's like to be somebody else. And this is about what it's really like to be you. And I think the two is important for actors. It's obviously important. We want to know what it's like to be somebody else. And that's one of the reasons actors love to act, because you're curious about life. You want to know, what is it like to be that person, or live in that age, or in that experience, or I want to share that person's experience so more people can know what it's like if you have that life, if you have that experience. So that's wonderful. And then it's nice, you know, we have the ritual in the theatre of the audience clap, and that like breaks the spell. The actors go back, they take off their makeup, their costumes, they get ready, they might go and have a drink or go and do something. And it's kind of like debriefing, you know, the police, when they've been through incidents now, luckily, thank God, they will have debriefing, or people who've been through traumatic events. We understand more about that than we used to. And so I think in the same way, you know, you might think it's easy to come back into yourself, but I think sometimes it is harder for people, and I think that's one of the things maybe in society we see people seeking or searching is themselves. They've somehow lost touch with parts of themselves. You know, why does this happen? How does it happen? And they're searching. And then just to rest in yourself, to feel really easy in yourself, you don't need to escape or avoid yourself or, you know, hide yourself. You're comfortable with yourself. And I think that's a nice kind of balance for us all, feeling comfortable in ourselves and then having interest to go out and what is it like to be somebody else? What would I find out? What would I learn that I myself don't know, but I'm interested to find out?
Beautiful. And what I really notice about the way you express yourself and the way you talk about Rosen is the gentleness, and how that gentleness is that process, as you were saying, of the de-armoring, of allowing people to be with places that have defended or got harder for very good reasons often. Like you said, you know, to hold themselves together or to please or to shoulder or to have, you know, shoulding muscles, pleasing muscles. And I love the way in Rosen you read a person, and you with great compassion, you know, with great tenderness say, of course you pulled your hips in to be a good person, a good little child. Of course your shoulders are tight because you had to take on so much. Of course you stopped reaching. I love the way Rosen names like the arms are reaching muscles. So of course when little people kept reaching, and then parents or caregivers understandably said, go away, I'm too busy, go and do something by yourself, people often pulled back and stopped reaching out. And what I've noticed about, obviously I've been on Rosen, which I absolutely adore, but also I've watched your videos, is the way you explained how Rosen meets people so gently so that they can safely open, safely connect with their trauma or their armoring or their hardness. It's this whole thing which you expressed so beautifully about this safety to come to you. I wondered if you would happy to speak about that gentleness, that safety, about vulnerability, that kind of thing.
Sure. I think when you go and see a Rosen practitioner, and lots of people don't come on the courses, you know, they want to go and have a session, but I think it's quite a good idea to come on a course because it gives you a frame. Like I'm saying, I knew nothing about it, and when you're in a group with other people, you see the changes in other people, and often we can see the changes in other people more easily than we can see our own changes, and we mirror things. You know, you'll recognize things in people and they'll recognize things in you. But basically, a lot of tension, as I was saying, has arisen because we have had to protect our soft sides, if you like, from the tough external world. And this isn't to say that challenges or difficulties are bad, because we learn, we grow. It's a bit like muscle. You know, when you're developing muscle, you know, you're using your muscles, you're exercising your muscles, and your muscles grow stronger. But we don't want our muscles to be tense and rigid all the time.
Right.
So we want to have both. We want to have our strength, our resilience, but we also want our softness and our relaxation. Wow. And again, some people find it very difficult to truly relax, this deep restorative relaxation where we're relaxing physically, emotionally. You know, we feel really safe. We can kind of switch off. And what happens in a Rosen session is that the touch isn't demanding, nor is it taking anything away. So I absolutely love massage of all types. I don't think I've ever had a massage of a style that I haven't enjoyed and I love. And I'll go for different things, but often I go because I've got tight muscles and I want to relax. I really want to relax. So the masseur is, if you like, they're soothing away my tension. Whereas in Rosen, we're more interested in meeting and meeting that tension, kind of coming it up to it so that I can feel it. because often we can't really feel what we're doing in our body. And then instead of somebody kind of pushing it, they just kind of meet it with the same amount of pressure that we're using on ourselves in order to have that tight muscle. And different people respond differently. So some people will find this light, very gentle touch irritating. To them, that might not feel safe. They might feel more safe with quite a strong touch, so they really can feel the strength of the person, and they want to feel that they can go into their muscles, and they want to feel that the other person can take them on, if you like. So everybody has different things that allow them to relax. And generally we feel relaxed when, as you say, the part of us that's monitoring everything, our kind of little scout that's on the lookout for potential danger. It's so lovely when, okay, scout, we're completely fine, you can take an hour's break, you know, you can go and lie down yourself. And so when we really feel that, we relax in a different way. So some people, there's all kinds of reasons why people find it difficult to relax, but really, very simply, they used to say with Rosen, it's relaxation coupled with awareness. So you relax, but you have insights, you have awareness. It's not going to sleep relaxation. It's actually heightened consciousness. It's heightened sensation and presence to what we're actually feeling, whether that's physical, emotional, something else. And it's this lovely, you need both, you want both. And so sessions tend to have stages where people might be more alert, then they will relax, then they might feel something, then physically, emotionally. And it's so you kind of go, it's different every time. And people, sometimes people just, they're so busy that they just to come back to who you are, to have somebody, it sounds a silly thing, of course I know who I am, but sometimes we're so caught up in what we've got to do and the roles we have, we don't know who we are without all our roles, without our to-do lists, without all our relationships. Well, who am I? What's there? And just to find this kind of simple place, it can often be very refreshing. Often people kind of have forgotten their fun side, or their whatever side it is. You know, it's just the parts of us that are actually very valuable, but perhaps we've forgotten about them. So it's helping people to bring out more of what's in them, that's nourishing, that's pleasurable, that's life-giving, that's affirming, that's important.
And what was so lovely was was I saw you talking about breathing, and it's marvelous to practice breathing and to open to breathing, but the idea in Rosen might be that your diaphragm might relax so much that you're not concentrating on breathing. There's a different allowing with breathing. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Just Marion, who founded the work, she noticed that when people's diaphragms relax, and she was a physiotherapist, so she had a very good anatomical sense of being able to go in and find things. I mean, much more so than me. But when that part of you, as she described it, relaxes, and it's the muscle involved in breathing, people often experience a state of surrender, peace, acceptance, which is really beautiful. And it's not a feeling that we generally have. And again, when you're having a Rosen session, you're lying on a table. And generally when that happens is when you're lying on your back in the session and the practitioner has their hands around your rib cage, or sometimes it happens spontaneously. But there's obviously the room then for your ribs to really expand, whereas when we're going around or when we're in a tight posture, your diaphragm can't relax. But when you're relaxed, and it gives you a different sensation of yourself, a different experience of your own aliveness, which, as I say, people often call it a feeling of surrender and trust. and it's a beautiful feeling. So we're not going fishing for that, if you like. We're going to find whatever turns up. You know, we're going to be with whatever's there. It will be there. But when people do have that feeling, it's very profound. It's like a profound sense of yourself at peace, which once you've experienced it, you know that's there. You know that's in you. You know you have that. You have the capacity for that. And that just that little experience can be kind of quite transformational for many people. So, as I say, it's more just to see what's there, and that's the fun thing, that we're all so unique. You know, this is the wonderful paradox, isn't it? We're all the same and we're all unique. And so every time you have the experience, there's something fresh. It's never old hat, because we're being changed by life all the time. You know, every second. And as we know, all our cells are changing and life is shaping us, and we're discovering things all the time. So every time we go, something different comes up. So it's beautiful to learn this method, because it's endlessly fascinating and endlessly creative.
And it's extraordinary too, because the creator, Marion Rosen, came out of such a harsh environment, coming out of, you know, Nazi Germany, and experiencing the discrimination, that she wasn't allowed to sing in the Lutheran church because she'd been born Jewish, even though her parents or her mother adopted Christianity. She experienced being ostracized. She couldn't marry her boyfriend because he was a Gentile. There were lots of ways she started to be made different, and her siblings all had to go to different countries, and she ended up going to Sweden, where she developed this work. So out of that kind of torturous beginning of being so othered, and alongside, you know, other people who were murdered, she created this method which was so welcoming and not trying to change anything, but noticing and being with. It's so interesting that she came out of such a difficult place, and that sensitivity that she had created this kind of sensitivity to bring to the world.
And I think Marion always says that she had to learn to be invisible when she was still in Germany, when Hitler was in power. And she was quite a tall, athletic young woman. And haven't we all known that when we want to be invisible and we make ourselves invisible? We're walking around, but we're not, we're invisible for all intents and purposes. So I think she had had so many experiences in her life that she drew on in her work. And she had had her early training in Germany before Hitler came to power, working with this avant-garde group of psychoanalysts and breath work and massage. So she'd had that, and then she had to learn to observe. And when you're in danger, you get very good at observing human nature. And also when she was in transit, basically in Sweden, you know, she was a refugee, you know, she was waiting to get to America. So again, she was observing, she was learning all the time. And then when she got to America, I'm sure, as with all of us, you know, sometimes, you know, if we can use our life experiences in a way that benefits others, they become our treasure rather than the stone around our neck. So I think she used what she'd observed and what she'd experienced and what she was curious about. Would you mind if we have a quick pause?
Perfect.
Sorry, my dog is barking.
So Annabelle, we were talking about how Marion Rosen, who developed Rosen bodywork therapy, how having had to learn how to be invisible in Nazi Germany, having had to be a refugee and observe and notice, having had been around breath workers and analytic therapists, having been in so many different experiences, this in the end, she turned that into gold, and she turned that into part of her body of work. And it's so interesting because obviously she was so ahead of her time, because we're in this time really where people are looking at trauma not by pushing and shoving people, but by allowing and noticing and giving that sense of kindness and safety. And I just wondered if you'd speak to that a little bit.
Yes, I think kindness. I think to experience kindness, I think when I think about people who have influenced me, it's the people that have been kind to me, that I still carry that gift with me. And I think I often think of Rosen as kind touch, even if it's firm. Sometimes it can be firm and going in, but it feels kind, as do a lot of body work. So I wouldn't claim that, but I think there is a quality to feeling that kindness that has an impact in us. I think we're designed to be kind. I mean, we're designed to survive, but we're also designed to be kind to one another. Receiving kindness, oh my goodness, when you have that feeling, it fills you up. So when we're kind of being kind to one another, we're touching one another kindly, we're receiving the kindness, I think it has a very potent effect on us that is very strong. So it's gentle, but it has a very powerful, potent effect. And I think what you're talking about is, I suppose it's a mindset shift, isn't it? I remember I have had some kinds of body work where they would hurt you to release your tension. They would, and in a way it felt good at the time because you had an experience and your body releases the endorphins, from the pain, but it never lasted. But the gentleness, when I've had like these beautiful, deep, gentle, but strong, that impact stays with me a lot longer. It's almost like we can benefit from the nourishment of that in a way when it's less kind of intense, but it's more I don't know what the word is, flowing or something like this. It stays in. So I definitely believe in gentleness. And I mean, in the old days, they would tell kids off, wouldn't they? They would spank them to teach them things. And now, people are being educated more to explain, rather than punish. And I think this is often what we're doing, is we're listening to the body. Why are you tightening here? Why is this hurting? Rather than fixing it or changing it or saying it should be different, you shouldn't be tense there, why don't you relax there, I'm gonna get in. It's more like this curiosity, this love. You've had to feel, I can really feel that, oh gosh, yes, and it's a different experience. So I do think that kindness isn't necessarily for wimps. Maybe it's the true warriors that dare to be kind.
Well, perhaps yes, absolutely. And perhaps it's somewhere where all of us at the same time, although Marion obviously did this early on, we are learning how to invite, because we came from a fix-it culture. In my experience, there was a culture of we must just do, and then we'll get it done. And so to be invited into kindness can be quite radical in a way.
Well, Marion was a physiotherapist. So when she was in Sweden waiting to go to America, she trained as a physiotherapist. And so she spent most of her life fixing people, exactly that. But she became fascinated because she wasn't doing Rosen method. She wasn't doing her own method that she developed. She was working as a physio. But she became really curious about, why is it that some people don't seem to recover and others do? Or why is it that people recover, but they keep coming back with something else? So because she'd had all this other training, she was interested. And she started to ask people, maybe when backache had started, what's been going on at home, very simply. And people might say, and they obviously felt safe with her to say, actually, my mother's terribly ill, or whatever it might be. And she could feel a change in their body. She would be working on their back that correlated with what they were talking about and where their pain was. So she learned that way, and obviously she developed it, that often there was an emotional cause, if you like, for a real physical pain. And when she was talking to people and asking them things and responding to what she felt with her touch, and she had, was very good with her hands, very sensitive. It was like a dialogue that was going on. So there'd be her hands kind of talking with the person's body. There would be her talking to the person. And then there would also be what she observed, but she didn't say, but she communicated through the quality of her touch. Mm. So sometimes there's a quality of touch that is like it's another form of language that is talking to the person. So, and then she got interested because her patients, and they were called patients because they came for physiotherapy as opposed to clients coming for psychotherapy. But what happened was people started to get not just better from their physical injuries or pain or unexplained aches or pains, but they started to get happier. Their lives started to change. And that was really where people started thinking, well, what are you doing? And they asked her, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm just tinkering, or whatever she said. And then somebody asked if Marion could train her, and became like an apprentice, and then more people wanted to be trained, and doctors started to send people to Marion that they couldn't work out, where there was no reason why somebody was having something, and so that was really how it started. And then she got more interested in not kind of fixing people, but she was seeing people transform. People were changing. People were changing their careers, or their marriages were getting better, or their relationships, or she started to get fascinated herself. And then as people asked to learn what it was that she was teaching, obviously she would have to describe it, and it became a method, and it was called Rosen method by her students because it had to be called something, and they said, well, let's call it that. So I think she was just really interested in people's potential, about what more we have inside us. And that was really, she was fascinated by that. She kept working until she had a stroke, I think, when she was 98, but she was literally working the day before teaching. So she was an incredible woman.
And I wondered, Annabelle, because obviously you're a performer, and I watched you in Father Brown, which was an amazing, wonderful, divine performance, like a grand dame of English acting. It was just gorgeous, and I'd love to see you in more roles like that. And watching Shameless, so sexy, and even seeing you on the Matthew Wright show, and you did a boob dance, which was just so hilarious and funny and sexy, and just so many performances and so many things you've done. I've just wondered, how's that? Of course, you're in Call the Midwife, which is endlessly important and popular, and I know from seeing you interviewed that it's helped people who've had babies in lifts, or it's helped, I know lots of people who watch it regularly, and it's met so many people in so many ways. And so I'm wondering, has your Rosen, through touching you, holding you touching other people, has that moved and changed your creativity as a performer, as an actor? Have they cross-fertilized?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe when I can look back at my life,
yeah.
But I think because I'm in it, I can't tell what's influenced what.
No. So in a way, it's all a flow.
Mm.
In a way, it's all a flow. So there's kind of like, you've carried on being a performer, but you've also developed a school of Rosen in Britain yourself. So it's kind of all emerged. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's all part of a continuum, isn't it? It's like I said, acting is about being somebody else, and Rosen method is about helping people liberate who they are. And it's ironic to be in Call the Midwife, which is about, you know, bringing new life into the world. And Marion often described Rosen work as being like being midwives to people kind of coming out, if you like. You know, this often people feel new. They you know, they get in touch, you know, with aspects of themselves that they haven't been in touch with. So they used to say it's like being a midwife. So I feel that what can I say? I've just always been interested in what makes humans, you know, human. How do we relate to one another? And they're different parts to that. There's Rosen, which is one-to-one through the touch with a group, and then there's acting, which is exploring in a different way. So for me, it's part of a continuum, I suppose.
And that's so nice, because in a way, if I'm with you, obviously correct me if I'm not, but there's an inner and an outer. There's a kind of reaching out midwifery, you know, through television or acting. There's a kind of reaching out to bigger audiences who might never go to a Rosen workshop. And then there's the inner, which is the Rosen workshop, but you're meeting different midwifing or midwifery in different ways. If I'm with you about that, there's a kind of...
I mean, to be honest, I don't really think about it so much. I think we've all got a lot in us, you know, and again, in the olden days, people would grow up and you just do one profession, whereas now people have what they call portfolios. Yeah. And you look at a lot of actors and they're doing producing, directing, writing, they're doing all kinds of things. And I would also like to have done all those things as well, but my time's been taken up. I got fascinated by Rosen. And I think also because when you do TV or film, you know, you can do a scene, but I'm not in control of it. I just do my part, which is I act it to the best of my ability. There's lots of other people doing their roles and their skills, and the director, and then it's edited. I could be edited out. It could be spliced together in such a way that it gives a different impression of the scene than the one that I had thought that was going to be like that. And then I probably don't get to see it for a year. Whereas with Rosen, you see the results, if you like, literally immediately. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. It's a real human being. We're real. There's nothing more exciting than people's real lives. And often some people have a very low opinion of themselves. They think that they're leading a boring life, or they're not happy with their lives or with themselves. But they don't know how wonderful they are. So basically, every person has so much in them, but often they're not aware of it. And we are privileged. Any therapist or any person working one-to-one with somebody like this, it always feels like a privilege. It feels like an honor. And that is where it is similar, I suppose, to midwifery. Not that I've done midwifery. I don't know what it's like, but it's this privilege. And I think that's what practitioners and neurotherapists feel. Isn't it a privilege when people trust you? It's such a privilege. I feel that. I feel I never take it for granted. And I also think that when people come to you, why should they trust you? They don't know anything about you. So we have to prove that we are trustworthy. And some people are ready to trust, you know, fairly quickly. They get a sense and they trust. And other people, they need a long time. Fair enough. You know, I think that's really important. And again, when somebody does trust you, or you feel that, it's an honor, it's a privilege. And I think that, as I say, I just appreciate it. It enriches my life so much. I learn so much by all my clients, all my students. I think it's lifelong learning, because we're learning about, you know, the human condition, the human being. And so I just think, and then acting I love, because you can really be transported into other realms. You know, you can really surprise yourself. And I always loved history, psychology, philosophy. Being in a TV show is a bit like being in a circus, in that you bond, and I mean, you're in caravans with your makeup, but there's an intensity to it. And again, there has to be that trust. People are trusting one another. So again, I think I really enjoy this collaboration. I like being part of a team. I like that feeling that we're creating something together. And when you're with a client, you're actually creating something together. It's not me doing something to the client. We are entering this together and we are finding it together. It's equal. It's an equal relationship. And I think the best productions, TV productions, are where everybody's an equal and you all feel like you're collaborating. A cake comes out at the end of it, but you've all put your ingredients in. You can't tell that's that, that's that, that's that. You just get the cake, but it's a lovely feeling. So I think that's where I'm happy. And there's more things I'd like to do, you know, but...
what would you like to do? You don't have to say anything. If there's anything you'd like to say.
Lots of different things.
What's coming across, which is so lovely, Annabelle, is this sense of equality and accessibility and joining together and oneness, like village, like, you know, that sense of villages when you're in the TV show, whether you're in the Rosen community, and the joy, you know, when you're expressing yourself, there's so much joy about this sense of collaboration and community, and
that's what everyone wants.
I'm sure it is. And I know from talking to you that you're passionate about accessibility, and you've been passionate about these different movements that have been happening about integration and diversity, and I know you're passionate about us as a human race recognizing each other and being inclusive. And I think there's something about what you're saying about Rosen including all the parts, whether they don't want to come out yet or not, and the acting being all the parts, you don't know, you have to surrender. You do not know what your part's going to look at when the TV show comes out, but there's something about all the parts and all the parts coming together.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's lovely to feel a part of something that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
And that is of good.
And I know, just to bring this to a gentle close, but I know you do Rosen dance, which I know is marvellous as well. So people can join in different ways, can't they? They can join in with dance.
Yeah, it's called Rosen Method Movement. And how that came about was that Marion had a lot of clients, you know, that were older, and she helped them with their aches and pains and their injuries. And a lot of them said to her, is there any way we can prevent these injuries and aches and pains from developing in the first place? So she basically took a lot of movements that people would recognize actually now from Pilates, from physiotherapy, from dance. But she put it together in her way, again, based on her way of seeing people, understanding the body, understanding the emotions. And people would come to these movement classes. And it's designed to lubricate the joints, to do gentle stretching. But people also found it was a bit like the way that you were moving was opening those parts of you inside, almost in a similar way to the body work, in terms of that people felt differently. So again, it's fun. I mean, lots of people love it more than the body work. I never liked it. I didn't like it at all, I have to admit. I loathed it for many, many years. And now I love it. You know, I think it depends on, you know, what's going on in your life and what you're open to. And I don't think I could really slow down in myself enough, or I don't think I could allow the movement and the music into me in the way that I can now. Other people come to it straight away. So it's fun to try. And yes, there's lots of classes internationally now online because of COVID, which has been great fun. I went to one last night organised by in Russia, and America, all over the place. So you're right, that's a very nice, accessible way to have a little taste.
Lovely. So thank you, Annabelle. Thank you for taking.
Thank you, Cate.
It's a very loving method, isn't it? It's a very loving method, and it's, if we were thinking of love as a verb, there's something about it that explains love in a way. The action of being with someone in such a way which is gentle and not forcing.
I think what you people feel, I hope, is the unconditional positive regard for your essence. Yeah. For your essence. It's like, yes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah. And again, I think there's all different ways that people convey that. And but I think it is, I mean, my personal philosophy is that we all want to love and be loved. But that gets very fucked up by life and by circumstances. But when things boil down right to the very essence, with nearly everybody, I think that comes down this desire to love and be loved, to have your love received, and to feel that you are loved. And I think that's simple. When you have that, so much else seems to sort itself out.
It's so true. It is so true. And I think something I'm really understanding now is that we love with the ways we've learnt or know how to love. So different people's love languages may come out so differently that another person may not experience it as love. But the more we understand diversity, if you like, or intersectionality, or we understand that things are not binary, I'm feeling like so many of us, we are loving. It's just understanding our different ways and our differences, and that's what's so beautiful about you talking about. One thing maybe I can say as we're ending is something, and I've been on Rosen workshops which are amazing. They have these group check-ins, which somehow are led as if the group is one. So one person shares, and then another, and then another, and it's as if it's one session with one body, and the whole group, it seems to me, the whole group is moved as if it's one, and yet people will have said different things, and there could be tears, there could be anger, there could be peace, there could be, and yet it's like the bubbling and unfurling of oneness. And I think that's what's so beautiful is in something like Rosen, that sense of community, that we are all connected, even and especially if we emit it in very different ways, there's a link with everybody.
I think also when people, often when we talk, we put cushions around our words. We try and explain or justify or qualify or excuse or conceal if we're not sure about it. And when you take away the cushions, when you're just authentic and really sharing from what you really feel is true, people want to listen. It's absolutely riveting, because whenever you hear the truth, it's like a chime that we all feel. We feel the truth of something, and that again is life-giving, even if it's something very difficult and painful. Somebody being truthful, somebody being authentic, and again, it sounds simple, but so often that isn't really how we've learned to be, for many reasons. And just coming back and just the simple truth. And again, I always think that the really sad thing for me, one of the very sad things to do with Germany, with the rise of Hitler, was that so many people just didn't do anything for a long time. And they were afraid. They were afraid to say that's not okay. In effect, I'm making it very now. But I often think so often people stay silent. And I think to say what you see, to say what you feel, to say what you think is so important, and often people don't admit things to themselves, they're scared. So again, I just think this practice of just being truthful, you know, and I'm not talking about saying to somebody, I don't like you. I'm not talking about, you know, that. I'm talking about owning your own shit, owning your feelings, owning your passion, owning your love, owning what you want to do, owning what you're scared of, owning what you're ashamed of, owning what you regret. Just, you know, being honest, being authentic with ourselves. And I think if people that can do that, and we know people like that, it's so refreshing. You want to be with those people.
That's the new paradigm, isn't it, of living in the heart, where people can, like you said, it's not easy, it's simple, but it's not easy. But with kindness and support, perhaps more of us can dare be authentic, speak our truth, and
stand up for others.
Stand up for others. My mother said when they were in London, for example, streets with communities, you know, if somebody bullied someone over the garden wall, they'd say, "Oi, oi, don't do that." Mm-hmm. And she said, you know, that's what we've sometimes lacked, is people saying, "We don't like that. Come on, be nice to each other." And so yeah, perhaps that's it, where we can be. We notice who's missing. We notice who's not being seen, who's not having a chance, who's not being allowed, and how can we access them? How can we allow them to have that chance too, so we can all be together?
Beautifully put.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. So wonderful.
Thank you, Cate.
So gorgeous.
So I'm going to watch Elf tomorrow on Christmas Eve.
So excited. Elf is so good.
Get on your yellow tights and party.
This is so good. So fantastic. Well, thank you, Annabelle. Really gorgeous to talk to you. So bless your heart.
And you.
Thank you. Lots of love. Thank you.
Bye.